So Mark, thanks so much for joining us. Tell me a little bit about your start here back in 2013. How did you get started in the winery?
So I was working construction up in Maryland. I was on recovery from an accident, a four-wheeler accident, and I was working construction.
Yeah.
And I learned how to drive this forklift, and it was a little electric forklift, and we rode it all over the warehouse. And Doug was looking for help during harvest in 2013.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that sounds really interesting. It's 20 minutes from my home instead of driving four hours. And I said, all right, Doug, I'm willing to come down and help out. And I met with the assistant winemaker at the time, because guess what? I was a harvest grunt. I was doing all the racking of tanks, cleaning out the press, all the fun stuff during harvest. And so I started out doing that and haven't really been fired yet. I worked with our winemaker at the time for 3 years. He left in 2015, and I kind of took over the role in 2016. It's all a big experiment here, so we do a lot of stuff during harvest. Hey, what is this yeast going to do? Or how about if we treat the fruit differently when it comes in the cellar? So I'm able to experiment a lot. There's a lot of fun things that go on during harvest. Like I made a Petit Verdot Rosé this year.
That's really good.
Never did that before, and we're really thrilled with the way it turned out. We grow Chardonnay, Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Verdot, Merlot, Albarino. I have some Viognier, but we're removing that. Pinot Grigio, and Sangiovese. So, primarily Bordeaux varietals.
Okay. How do you describe the qualities you get out of the wines here at Ingleside?
So I find for me personally, the whites tend to lean more to a little mineral aspect. So I think I get a little bit more minerality out of them. Some people say salinity. Like specifically on our Albarino, I feel that it has a more of a mineral component. It's got a really, somebody said crushed slate is what they get on the nose. I could see that, and I think that just comes from the soil. Our reds tend to be, I would say, a little bit earthier. It also comes from just ripening and the way that they ripen. So those are a couple of the things I'd see coming out of the soil.
Yeah.
But it's also the grapes and the location that we're in.
That's cool. And I know that you mentioned something about one of your vineyards having to be completely replanted.
So we're getting into our 40th year, 41st harvest, and we have leaf roll in one of our vineyards, and we're removing it because what it does is it reduces acid buildup, it reduces sugar accumulation, and the leaves turn blood red. Looks beautiful, however, you don't get a lot of photosynthesis when the leaves are red and not green.
Right.
So you lose quality, and nobody wants to have that. So we're removing. We actually have a few different vineyards that we're going to pull out and work on replanting in the next 5 years.
Wow.
Long-term plans.
Doug, thanks so much for joining us. And tell me a little bit about the history behind Ingleside Plantation Vineyards.
Well, it's a lot of history here because originally the property was purchased by my families in 1890.
Wow.
So Ingleside was built in 1834 and as a school, and it was originally called Washington Academy. Named obviously after our native son George Washington, who was born just a few miles down the road. When we purchased the property, I say we, my family, my ancestors, in 1890, it was just a general farm. My dad, who was then third generation already, turned it into a dairy farm.
Wow.
In the 1930s and 40s, all the way up until in the 60s. When he decided that dairy farming was not the life for him, 24/7, started a nursery, and which is still one of our main businesses, is growing trees and shrubs for a landscape market. That as he downsized the dairy, maybe he would plant some grapes, because he had been on several trips to France and Germany and realized that there were other things to drink with your meal than whole fresh milk, which is what I as a kid grew up on, not even pasteurized or anything, right out of the tub.
Well, and your father worked a lot to establish this AVA, did he not?
He did, but it was something that was kind of handed to us that you kind of have to do this. Everybody was going into the AVA thing. At the time, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which is now TTB, was sort of mandating that you, in order to do a state bottle, you had to be from an appellation. And so he worked on creating this area, which is locally called the Northern Neck.
Right.
We're between the Rappahannock River, which is just off to our right, and the Potomac River off to our left.
Okay.
So,
wow. Well, it's fascinating, and I know that takes a lot of work, and you have to be extremely proud to have been part of this history.
we think that all areas of the state can produce good quality wine.
I believe it. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.